The world's most oppressed person is right in this country. It's Michelle Obama. How oppressed is Michelle Obama? She's so oppressed, she told us recently she's afraid to get her driver's license renewed.
Love him or hate him, Tucker Carlson may be the most powerful conservative in America. Known for taking aim at the political elite and their strategic use of identity politics, he's never been one to mince words, especially when it comes to Barack and Michelle Obama. But even the sharp-tongued commentator was left utterly speechless when he stumbled upon a jaw-dropping secret about the Obamas. And it is so shocking, it'll leave you reeling too. But before we dive into this bombshell, it's important to understand who Tucker Carlson is and why he's never backed down from taking on powerful political figures. Known for his bold commentary and refusal to shy away from controversial topics, Carlson has built his career on calling out those in power, especially when it comes to the Obamas. So what is it about this latest revelation that has left even him at a loss for words? To put it simply, Tucker Carlson is a household name in conservative media, famous for bringing far-right viewpoints into the mainstream of American politics. But to understand the man who's made a career out of challenging the political elite, it's worth diving into his roots. Tucker was born into a world that would later shape his unflinching outlook. His father, Richard Warner Carlson, was a media executive, while his mother, Lisa McNear Lombardi Carlson, was an artist. But Tucker's childhood wasn't exactly picture-perfect. When he was just 6, his mother left the family, moving to France and cutting off contact. Tucker and his younger brother, Buckley, never saw her again, a loss that undoubtedly left its mark. After the divorce, Richard Carlson took the boys to La Jolla, California, where they settled into a new life. It was there that Tucker began to carve out his path, attending local schools until his father remarried. Patricia Swanson, his new stepmother, came from the family behind the Swanson food empire, bringing a new level of stability to their lives. Tucker's teenage years were spent at St. George's School, a boarding school in Rhode Island, where he met Susan Andrews, the headmaster's daughter, who would eventually become his wife. Though academically ambitious, Tucker didn't have an easy time getting into college. After a few rejections, it was his future father-in-law who helped him gain admission to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. After graduating from Trinity College in 1991, Tucker initially set his sights on joining the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. However, when that door closed, he turned to journalism on the advice of his father, a former reporter himself. Carlson started as a fact-checker for the conservative journal Policy Review, and soon moved on to writing op-eds for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette in Little Rock, Arkansas. His big break came in 1995 when he joined the staff of the Weekly Standard, a conservative opinion magazine founded by William Crystal. That same year, Carlson made his first TV appearance, being interviewed by CBS newscaster Dan Rather on 48 Hours about the highly publicized O.J. Simpson trial. This was the beginning of his regular appearances as a conservative commentator on various news programs. By 2000, Carlson had landed a co-hosting gig on CNN's The Spin Room, though the show was short-lived due to low ratings. In 2001, he was invited to co-host CNN's long-running debate show Crossfire alongside Democratic strategist Paul Begala. The show became infamous for its heated debates, but it all came to a head in 2004 when Jon Stewart, then host of The Daily Show, appeared on Crossfire and criticized both Carlson and Begala, calling them political hacks who were hurting America by promoting partisan bickering over genuine debate. Stewart's comments struck a chord, and just 3 months later, CNN's president canceled Crossfire, publicly agreeing with Stewart's critique. This moment was a pivotal point in Carlson's career, marking the end of his early run on CNN and paving the way for his future in conservative media. After his stint at CNN, Tucker Carlson made the move to MSNBC, where he hosted a show simply titled Tucker. The show ran until 2008, allowing Carlson to continue honing his skills as a conservative voice in the media. But it wasn't long before he took a new direction, one that would significantly shape his career. In 2010, Carlson partnered with Neil Patel, a Republican political advisor and his former college roommate, to launch the Daily Caller. This conservative news and commentary website quickly gained traction, aiming to be a stronghold for right-leaning readers. However, in its quest to expand its audience, the Daily Caller began leaning heavily into sensationalism and extreme rhetoric. It wasn't just about conservative commentary anymore. The site started pushing the envelope with unsupported claims, vulgar attacks on Democratic leaders, and conspiracy theories. Critics also pointed out its frequent promotion of racist and sexist stereotypes, tarnishing its reputation in mainstream circles. By 2020, Carlson had distanced himself from the site, selling his ownership stake to Patel. While the Daily Caller continued under Patel's leadership, Carlson's departure marked a shift in his focus back to television, where he would soon rise to even greater prominence. Over the years, Carlson's conservative views have only grown stronger, and they're rooted in his deep skepticism of elites, government overreach, and the mainstream media. He's become a vocal advocate for free speech, individual liberty, and a healthy distrust of centralized power. These views didn't just come out of nowhere. They've been shaped by his career in journalism and television, where he spent years working for various outlets like CNN, MSNBC, and most notably, Fox News. Each of these platforms gave him a chance to voice his opinions and critique what he saw as liberal bias in the media. His show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, became a powerful vehicle for his conservative perspective, resonating with millions of viewers who shared his skepticism toward the political establishment. The show gave him the freedom to tackle issues that many other media outlets avoided, which only strengthened his appeal among a conservative audience. By 2021, his influence was undeniable, earning him a spot on Time magazine's list of the most powerful conservatives in America. It was a clear recognition of how far he had come from his early days in the media world, cementing his role as one of the most influential voices in American conservative politics. With all of this success, it's no surprise that he built a reputation for being the left's worst nightmare, especially for the Obamas. According to Tucker Carlson, the story of political power doesn't always follow a clear or simple path. Behind the polished public appearances and scripted speeches lies a more intricate and calculated strategy. This is especially true when examining Barack Obama's political career. While his rise to power seemed organic, Carlson suggests it was much more deliberate than it appeared. For Carlson, Obama's early campaign speeches, full of unity, hope, and change, weren't just inspiring messages, but part of a well-crafted political strategy. These speeches resonated deeply with the American public, who were eager for change, but Carlson argues that they were also carefully designed to shape public perception and present Obama as a figure of reconciliation. It was a sophisticated play in political messaging, showing Obama's ability to navigate the media and political landscape with a keen understanding of how to influence public opinion. However, as time went on and Obama's presidency progressed, Carlson sees a noticeable shift, not just in priorities, but in messaging. This wasn't a mere reaction to changing circumstances, but rather a calculated decision that had deep implications for American politics. The focus moved away from unity and hope, and the Obama administration pivoted to new themes, which Carlson believes were strategically planned from the top down. The narrative began to shift, and the sophistication of that transformation highlighted how power and influence were being wielded within the system. Carlson points to Obama's second term, particularly around the time of his re-election campaign, as the point where things began to change dramatically. According to him, Obama's administration doubled down on many of the worst policies of the previous Bush administration. Faced with a lack of strong achievements to run on, Carlson believes the Obama team chose to shift the focus to culture wars, a decision that he views as a strategic move to deflect attention from the administration's failures. This, he argues, was not just a political response, but a maneuver that also served to counter movements like the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, which were getting too close to challenging the political establishment in a way that threatened the status quo. Carlson also alludes to the growing use of woke terms and ideologies as part of this broader strategy to shift political discourse. While he doesn't claim to know the exact details of the conspiracy, he sees the rise of these cultural conflicts as part of a deliberate effort to control the narrative and steer the national conversation in a new direction. For Carlson, the entire progression of Obama's presidency reveals not just the evolution of a political leader, but the way in which power and influence are strategically maneuvered behind the scenes to maintain control over the political landscape. Carlson believes that the long-term effects of these strategic decisions became clearer over time, especially when it came to how the media and public conversations were shaped. He points to data that shows how political discourse didn't evolve naturally, but rather was steered by a coordinated effort. According to him, these changes in the way political messages were framed had a lasting impact on the American political landscape. They didn't just alter the way issues were discussed, they set up a whole new way of thinking about politics and how narratives are spun. Carlson argues that what started as an organic shift in political messaging turned into a masterclass in controlling the narrative. He claims that these calculated decisions to shift focus, especially toward divisive cultural issues, weren't just reactive, but part of a broader plan to change the conversation on a national scale. Over time, he believes these strategic moves fundamentally changed the way people interacted with politics, turning the media into a powerful tool for influencing public opinion and maintaining control over political debates. Beyond his criticism of the Obama administration's policies, Tucker Carlson has also taken aim at Barack Obama as a person, often casting doubt on his background and motivations. Carlson has repeatedly questioned Obama's authenticity, insinuating that his rise to power was less about merit and more about the influence of powerful elites pulling the strings behind the scenes. One of Carlson's more controversial and widely discussed remarks involved his repeated promotion of the conspiracy theory that Obama wasn't born in the United States. This birther theory, which Carlson championed, gained significant traction, especially among those critical of Obama's presidency. But perhaps the biggest shot came from a 2021 interview, which turned out to be one of the biggest conspiracy theories of the 21st century. In 2023, Tucker Carlson stirred the pot once again by bringing Larry Sinclair back into the spotlight. Sinclair, a man known for his outrageous and unproven claims, accused Barack Obama of smoking substances and engaging in sexual activities with him back in 1999, long before Obama became a household name. According to Sinclair, the two met outside a Chicago bar, and what started as a drug deal quickly turned into something more intimate. Sinclair insisted that he had no idea who Obama was at the time, just that they shared a wild night fueled by substances. These aren't new allegations from Sinclair. He first made these claims in 2008, during Obama's run for president, but they were largely ignored or dismissed by the mainstream media. Back then, Sinclair even threw in a story about Obama having an affair with a choir director who was later murdered, adding even more fuel to his far-fetched narrative. Carlson, however, saw a different angle. He suggested that the media's decision to avoid Sinclair's stories wasn't about journalistic integrity or skepticism, but about protecting their access to Obama. According to Carlson, the media steered clear of these explosive claims to stay in the good graces of Obama's campaign, ensuring they wouldn't be blacklisted from covering the rising political star. In Carlson's view, this was a calculated move to shield Obama from damaging narratives during his ascent to the presidency. But Barack Obama isn't the only member of the Obama family to catch heat from Tucker Carlson. He's also been quite vocal about his criticisms of Michelle Obama, particularly when it comes to her involvement in what Carlson refers to as identity politics. Tucker Carlson has consistently been vocal about his criticism of Michelle Obama, particularly regarding her use of race and identity politics. He points out the contrast between her privileged background and the victim narrative she often presents. Despite attending Princeton for free and spending much of her life within the elite circles, Carlson suggests that Michelle Obama still positions herself as a victim of racism, a stance he finds disingenuous. He draws a parallel to Hillary Clinton, emphasizing that both women, despite their status in the ruling class, continue to frame themselves as victims of discrimination, which he believes is part of a broader strategy to maintain a relatable yet misleading image. Carlson also discusses the apparent hypocrisy in Michelle Obama's lifestyle. He highlights the luxurious homes of the Obamas compared to the modest homes of people like former President Jimmy Carter, using this contrast to underscore his point that Michelle, despite her narrative of struggle, has long been part of the elite class. For Carlson, the fact that Michelle Obama's campaign for empathy and equality is not reflected in her lifestyle undermines her credibility when she continues to use race as a means to connect with people who are struggling. He also criticizes Michelle's public statements on race, particularly one instance in which she expressed fear for her daughters when they were driving, fearing that others would make assumptions about them based on their race. Carlson suggests that these comments were timed perfectly to coincide with heightened racial tensions following George Floyd's death, implying that Michelle was strategically using the moment to promote her new Netflix series, rather than genuinely addressing the concerns of everyday Americans. Carlson's critique is grounded in the idea that Michelle, much like other prominent figures who use identity politics, capitalizes on her race and background to continue building a lucrative personal brand. He argues that her success, including high-paying speaking engagements and book deals, comes from perpetuating a victimhood narrative that resonates with certain groups, but in reality doesn't reflect the struggles of average Americans. Carlson also didn't buy into Michelle's portrayal as a flawless symbol of hope and resilience. He often pointed out what he saw as a disconnect between her carefully curated public image and what he called the reality behind the scenes. He felt that the media propped her up as this untouchable figure, while any criticism or flaws were swept under the rug. You see, Michelle Obama quickly became a fashion icon during her time as First Lady, turning heads with her elegant style and high-end designer choices. Whether it was a Jason Wu gown at an inaugural ball or an Alexander McQueen dress at a state dinner, her fashion sense was praised for its sophistication and grace. But while many admired her chic wardrobe, not everyone was on board. Some critics felt that her designer outfits, often costing thousands of dollars, clashed with the image of someone who claimed to represent everyday Americans. Tucker Carlson, never one to hold back, was particularly vocal about this. He argued that Michelle's expensive fashion choices didn't exactly scream relatable. For him, a $12,000 dress wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a symbol of how out of touch she was with the struggles of working-class Americans. Carlson painted a picture of a First Lady who, despite her humble beginnings, seemed to be living in a world far removed from those scraping by to make ends meet. And it wasn't just the dresses that drew fire. Michelle's lifestyle during her White House years also became a target, with her 2010 trip to Spain standing out as a lightning rod for criticism. The vacation, which included a stay at a five-star hotel and a sizable security detail, rubbed many people the wrong way. The fact that taxpayer dollars covered the costs of security and transportation added fuel to the fire. For Carlson, this trip was the ultimate example of being out of touch. At a time when so many Americans were struggling with unemployment and financial instability, seeing the First Lady enjoy a luxury vacation didn't sit well. Carlson wasn't alone in this critique. Some felt that despite Michelle's frequent mentions of her Chicago roots and working-class upbringing, her actions told a different story. The disconnect between her past and her present lifestyle became a focal point in these discussions, with Carlson arguing that Michelle's choices didn't reflect someone who truly understood the realities of the average American's life.